Morning, everyone. Welcome. Sorry for my tardiness. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I'm just going to go ahead and throw up these session highs and lows. And if I'm not mistaken, we do have some medium impact news this morning. Let me just pull that up. All right, let's refresh. All right, so unemployment claims came in under expectation, which in theory should be good for the economy. It's slightly less. It's not a huge amount, but I'm sure that was enough for a reaction. I haven't looked at the market to see what happened at 8:30. And we also have another high. Okay, that's what it is. High impact at 9:45, medium impact at 10. So we have quite an hour ahead of us with the opening bell coming at 9:30. So we'll have three potentially decent size moves this morning. Within the next 45 minutes, really. Let's see, that's all we have. And then tomorrow, high impact news at 10, medium impact 9:35 and 8:30. All right, so we have a couple days of some news events which should lead to volatility. I don't know if any of you caught uh, or was still watching the market yesterday after we got off, like yesterday afternoon at about, I guess, 20 after 4 when Nvidia announced whatever their earnings were. The market went crazy as far as there was a big dip lower and then it pushed higher, taking out the all-time high, but like really taking it out. Whereas previously it would take it out by 10, maybe 20 points, and then it would retrace back in. This time it actually did a sizable move. All right, you can see I had the all-time high marked up here at 18,838. And then what we saw at 4 o'clock was just glad I wasn't in the market because I don't know which way I would have been in. But you saw a big push lower, and this is in a 5-minute candle, big push lower, and then all the way up to 18, almost 18,900 within the same 5-minute candle. So we were able to get a little higher than what the all-time high was 18,840. So it was about 60 points higher. Then we had a little retracement until the closing bell gapped up in the opening. And then even afterwards, it kept pushing all the way until midnight. We got up to about 18,970. And then we're currently trading 18,985. So we've been bullish ever since yesterday. So we'll see what that brings today. Also, well, at least I am. I'm going to wait until after the 10 o'clock news event to address the market. But until then, I'll continue to look for setups and try to anticipate where I think price is going to go. So we got about 5 minutes to the opening bell. So I will take a step back for a moment and see who we have in the chat. All right, El Jefe, good morning. JR, Sleeping Tiger, Robin, Gospel Trader, and Mia. Good morning to you all. Man, Tehran. We lied. What's up? Yes, it's still Forex Factory. Here you are, Tehran. Using Forex Factory. I just set it up on a weekly view, and I go into a little filter here, and I filter just for medium impact and high impact. And then I remove all the currencies and only look for USD. All right, we're 1 minute into the opening bell here. Let's take a look and see what the regular trading hour gap is, since we did have a gap up. Okay. Oh, that was the size of it. All right. So regular trading hour gap down to 18,793. Approaching the London low here. Make this a little larger for you. Opening 5-minute candle brought in 49 points there to the downside, getting really close to the London low. Hey, Brad, good morning. Rogers, good morning. You anticipating a complete closure of the gap? Okay. So that would be a trade down to at least 793, which would be another 150 points lower than we are now. If you're just joining and you missed the start of the program this morning, we do have high impact news event in about 5 more minutes at 9:45, and then there's a medium impact news at 10. Now, since we have a pretty big new day opening gap today, I'm going to turn that indicator back on so we can see it. It's actually, if I'm not mistaken, it's below. Okay, no, it's above the regular trading hour gap. So I'll get rid of it and we'll just use that as the same area. I thought it was below it. All right, so London low has been traded through now. Again, we have at 9:45 flash manufacturing and services PMI. And then at 10, we have new home sales. All right, let's just take a look and see where we are. All right. And just see where we are as far as the indices are concerned. After yesterday's closing bell, we have quite a range. So let me just make sure everything's in screen. All right. All right, so we've had a slightly deeper retracement for the dollar. It was just moving upwards and protecting lows, but we do have this low here swept where now it's trading back into this consolidation zone here. So now the question would be is can it break these equal lows here? And if it does it find support in this fair value gap below? So that's what I'm going to be watching for the dollar. Right. Dow. Dow has been our weakest pair for the last at least 3 or 4 trading days. And it's good to see now that it's found a fair value gap, a bullish one in here. So then it kind of can align with the other two, where if they find support here and start looking for higher prices, then the Dow could follow suit and do the same thing. Previously, where the S&P and Nasdaq were finding bullish fair value gaps, the Dow didn't have one. And then even when they were retracing, the Dow was creating bearish fair value gaps like you see above here, that you do not see on the other indices. So they don't have that downwards pressure as they're trying to seek higher prices. All right, so now the question today will be, will the Dow just bounce between these two, or which one will win? So I'm going to look for these to all sync up and to be together. And if we're looking at the Dow, we have taken out this low, whereas then we look at S&P, that low has not been taken. So that was from yesterday at 2 o'clock. Yesterday at 2 o'clock for S&P is way down here. Likewise with NQ, same thing. It's far below where we currently are trading. So if they do get back in sync, either S&P and NQ are going to trade below their 2 o'clock low yesterday, or we're going to find support in the Dow, and the Dow is going to push higher and catch up with the other two. So for now, that's all I really need from these charts. Again, I'm going to wait until after 10 to address the markets. So we have two news events, one right now and then one in 15 minutes. Right, judging by the lackluster movement here, I'm assuming the two news events came in neutral with one positive, one negative. Let's just take a look at that. No, both above expectation, both manufacturing and flash services. So, all right. So we've had three positive or three above expectation events this morning, which should be good for the dollar. Let's see if the dollar is, oh, okay, it's working. We go back to our comparison chart we were just looking at. And we can see the dollar is moving based on the news event. And we have the Dow moving in the inverse relation or direction. And right, so they're all continuing from the earlier news event that we had at 8:30. All right, NQ has been the strongest over the, like I said, if the Dow has been the weakest over the last 3 or 4 trading days, the NQ has been much stronger, or been the strongest of the three. And so even the retracements have been more shallow, and it's been looking for more support to move higher. So we'll see if that continues as well this morning. We have, again, one more news event in 10 minutes, a medium impact new home sales. Deepak, good morning. We have the Asia low down at 18,862. Regular trading hour gap low down at 793. Another 40 points or so to the Asia low. You want to see how price reacts when it gets here. Hitting a short at 9.99, TP 845. All right, Molly, good luck. 150 point TP. Hit Asia low in sight here. Drop down to the 5-minute. We're also in the 850 to 910 macro at the moment. But since there's a news event coming at 10, I'm not going to use the macro for anything this morning. And there's the Asia low swept. Slow right after. Let's see if it does. Be nice if it does. Okay, so we're now tapped into the new day opening gap. You just throw that up there for a quick second. Extending from 860 down to approximately 815. And Molly TP, there you go. Congrats. Hey Doc, good job. Congrats. Sniper, good morning. What's up? All right, final 5 minutes of the hour here. Oh, I'm sorry, Molly. You said 8:45. I thought you said 8:49. Sorry. So close. Almost there. Okay, got it. Either way, Molly, that was a slamming trade you made to get over, almost 150 points there. Getting really close to consequent encroachment of the new day opening gap. Again, I marked up the regular trading hour gap as well. The low is at 793. Here we got medium impact news of new home sales coming in 2 minutes. Milad, you got 150. Excellent. I'm not sure, J Stock. I'm not trying to pick bottoms here. I'm just looking to see if a formation, if we get a bullish breaker, then I'll see that as price turning around. Otherwise, I'm not trying to choose the bottom here. We do have regular trading hour low down here at 794, but that doesn't mean that it's going to trade to it now. It could trade a little higher, bump up against something, and then come lower later. There's a lot of different options. So I don't want to choose lows here. I just want to look for setups, and if a setup creates itself, then we'll react to it. I do think 823 is a level that we might see a reaction. So we'll at least look at that level. That also coincides with about consequent encroachment of this fair value gap here on the hourly time frame. So I'll look for a reaction there. If nothing happens and it continues lower, then just continue to watch. You're right. 3 day weekend coming. 3 day weekend coming means we're probably going to have a lackluster Tuesday. There is trading on Monday until I believe 11 a.m., maybe noon, whenever London closes. So London will be trading on Monday. And then whenever the London market closes, that's when the market will close for us as well. But I'm not expecting a lot of volume. So you might see price moving a little slow on Monday if you want to trade that. 10 o'clock now. News has now been released. The price wants to go long from here. It's a little risky because it's coming off a 15-second chart, but let's see what happens. Oh, happy birthday, Laughter. Gonna have a good weekend, it seems. Oh, 69. Okay. There you go. At least get a good pre-birthday present closing green this week. Hey, Queen, good morning. All right, so we've reduced our risk. So we'll see if it goes for us or against us. And if it goes against us, we'll look for a new setup. Cool. All right, A Dot, good job. Good job. We'll catch you next time. Oh, thank you, Trading Lounge. Appreciate it. I don't know. I'll show you the setup that I used for this one. All right, so I was on the 15-second, and I'm not sure how many of you have access to the 15-second chart, but we had a few things working in our favor here. For one, we had the bullish fair value gap on the hourly that it traded into here. Then what we had was after a low was put in, like if you notice on the way down, all the highs were protected. Every time it put in a new low, it never came and took out the high. Right, and so all of these were protected until we got down. Oops, there, here, then here. Right, so they're all protected until this one. Once this one was put in, it made a low and then traded and made a high. So once that was done, then you technically you have your breaker there. Um, so that was here. Again, I mentioned it was a little riskier because it was on such a low time frame. It was on the 15-minute, and I still wanted the 25 points. Actually, I went for 30. So I went for a little bit longer trade, and that was because the stop loss was a little larger. I had a stop loss, I think, of, I don't know, 23 or something. It was enough to where you at least wanted a one-to-one trade, and so I went for 30 points there. But this would have been your breaker here. Closing above the breaker was on this candle. And when that was done, you also got a fair value gap here. So you had your unicorn set up, right? And since there was news, I wasn't engaged in the market earlier. I saw the setup and I was just sitting on it because the news came out at 10. Actually, the news is what created this move up, which closed above. Came crashing back down, and I actually ended up, where did I get an entry? I feel like I waited for it to trade higher and close above again right here. Then I put the limit order in, and then it traded down, hit the limit here, kept going lower, and then came out. So I actually got in on the second one as opposed to getting in over here at 10:02. I waited, make sure it reconfirmed once again that it was going to use the breaker to push higher by closing above, and then I got in. So that was my rationale for that trade. So I'm not sure how many others saw the same thing or was just bullish from this area and wanted to get in and address the market. But if you've been following me for a while, you know I like to take trades during the macro, 950 to 1010. And I apologize because I did say I wasn't going to use the macro today because there was news being announced. However, after such a bearish hour from the 9 o'clock hour, and hitting a bullish fair value gap and then seeing the setup, it was enough to take. So let's get back up to the 5-minute, and we'll keep watching price action and see whether it wants to continue higher or break to the downside. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Yep, Molly, I'm not sure how much you heard earlier when I was just reviewing this setup here, but I caught this on the 15-second. So just as price is dropping lower, like if I'm anticipating the reversal, then every time there's a move higher, then I'm anticipating that to be a breaker, right? So after the move higher, I want to see the low swept, and then I want to see it move higher and take out the high. So when the low is swept and it just continues lower, and then we see another retracement, and then that low is swept, I just take the breaker and I just move it lower. And you just keep going until you get a break of the high. Get another low, retrace, and then a new low. And so I just took this and moved it down here. And then finally, we had news at 10 o'clock for new home sales, pushed price higher, which took out these highs right here. And when that high was broken, then that validated my breaker. Also, it left a fair value gap. So that means it moved up with speed, which I look for and I need. But also the fair value gap it takes a breaker setup and converts it to a unicorn setup. So if you ever hear us talk about the unicorn setup, it's a breaker with a fair value gap, because not all of them will have a fair value gap. It's just when you have a fair value gap, it's generally a higher probability trade, because that means you did get the speed out. You also had only one side really trading, so these were all basically buys. So then price will return to offer sell side, and when it does, that's when you can take your entry back out of the breaker. For me, I waited. It came all the way down, and I still wasn't sure if I was going to enter. And then when it traded above and closed above once again, then that was reconfirming for me, and that's when I set up the limit order where it traded back in and then out. And I set it up for a 30-point TP. I think I put my stop. That's what it was. I put my stop down here. So I wanted to make sure I was covered, even if it retraced back into this area, because it does sometimes. So my stop was down here. I was entering up here, and that's why I went with 30 points as opposed to 25. But I generally take a 25-point TP. Let's see. And the thing is, it will continue to make breaker setups along the way. So if this turns into a market maker buy model, I don't know how familiar you are with that term, but if we get a trade above here and a closure above, then this becomes a breaker as well. Right. It's just not the earliest breaker, and the highest probability for me, the one that I like, is the one at the bottom of the move. So as it's trading lower, I'm just waiting for things to turn around. And I didn't see, like you'll see when I go to the 1 minute, it wasn't very clear. You couldn't really see much. So if you're watching the 1 minute, you would have missed this. It would have just been trading lower. It would have hit the fair value gap, and then you would have saw this impulse candle out. But as far as a setup, it doesn't really do much. However, if I'm not mistaken, this might be the ICT 2022 model, where you take out a pool of liquidity. So this would be essentially hitting the fair value gap, will be hitting a liquidity level, and then we see an impulse out, creating a fair value gap right here. I didn't think about that at all. Closure above. So what would have happened is you put your stop below the candle to the left wick. So your stop would have went here. You would have taken an entry at the top of the fair value gap at 867, stop at 840. So that's almost a 30-point stop loss. So that's pretty sizable. If you weren't willing to accept that, then you have to start drilling down into 30-second, 15-second, 5-second charts to try to find something smaller. But if you could absorb that 30, then you could have taken a 1-to-1 from here at 867 up to 97, which we see it hit 97 on this candle right here. So that would have taken you about 10 minutes to achieve. But yeah, if you weren't familiar with the ICT 2022 model, then all of this wouldn't have made sense. You would have just saw this impulse candle and not really known what to do with it. And as if I move up, see the 2 minutes not clear, 3 minute either, and neither is the 5 minute. So in this case, yeah, the 15-second was the only way to really catch that move from a breaker. I'll leave that there. Now we've returned back to the breaker. We'll see if it works a second time. No problem, Molly. J stock. No, I'm not. I'm definitely not 90%. I wish I was 90%. But I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when I see the setup, I'm not 100% sold, and so the setup does work. I just don't enter. But then there are some other times where I enter the setup and it goes against me. Sometimes almost immediately. So it's not 90%, but it is a winning strategy and one that you can continue to refine and get better at. Oh, sorry, J Stock. I didn't answer your first question. I'm a little bit over 3 years into trading. Um, my first year was not very productive at all. I was just trying to find my way. And as you can imagine, it was quite difficult. And about the end of my first year was when I discovered ICT. So then I spent a year and a half extensively studying his materials. And then probably June of last year, I kind of broke away and said, let me just focus on what I'm doing as opposed to continuing to watch tutorials and continue to try to learn more things. Just let me just refine what I have. And then I started this channel on the 1st of December and started meeting some of the people that you see in the chat now. Some have been with me since December, since the very beginning. And they also helped me refine what I was doing, what I was looking at, and how I was approaching the market. So it's been a great, great last 6 months, I'll say. Yeah, well, yeah, glad to have you. Glad to have you. The more the merrier. But if you just keep tapping in, any questions you have, just throw it in the chat. There's plenty of people here who are willing to help, including myself. I'm not sure what your strategy is or what you've been using prior to joining our group, but I typically look for breakers. But we have people in the group who trade all different styles. Um, and yeah, we're all here to help. Let me put back up this new week opening gap here. Looks like we tap right into 50% consequent encroachment of the gap. Right here, this candle, 957. Tap 50%, and so far that's our low. So if we continue lower, we'll look at this gap as something that wants to fill in all the way down to 816. But otherwise, we'll take this 50% fill for now as where price wants to go, and we'll look to see if it's going to move higher. I'll put the long two back up. Let's see if this second one delivers. And like I said, I typically take 25 points from the breaker, and 25 points is right here. So it's getting ready to deliver again, according to the TP that I would take. Others may want to target these relative equal highs here up at 910, which is much larger TP, but for me, I've learned that whenever I try to take long TPs, it just really doesn't work out in my favor. So taking 25 points is much higher probability. The one that I took most recently this morning was 30 points. So that was right. I took an extra quarter to cover the fees that are charged. Another reason why I take the short 25 to 30 point TP is that I've noticed when price uses the breaker to do a reversal and shoot back up to the upside, what it'll do is it'll move 25, 30, 35 points and then it'll return back down. And far too many times I was caught in a trade where I'm up 25, 30 points and then it comes all the way back down to my entry. And then once it came back down, now I'm afraid that it's going to go lower. So I exit my trade. I'm at a break even. I didn't get anything out of it, and then it takes off and goes the distance. So that happened too many times to me to where it was just beneficial to take 25 points and get out. And here we have, it gave right at 30 points and now it's flushing lower. So it gave 6. All right, it gave about 33 points there. Yeah, Dow was extremely weak. I'm not sure what's the reason. I do know before I took vacation, the Dow, it was the opposite. The Dow was just pushing higher, whereas NQ was dragging behind. All right, everyone. We're about halfway through our session this morning. If you're enjoying the content, if you can hit the like button, be quite helpful for the channel, help us grow. It's also let me know you're enjoying the content. Yep, Milad, that's exactly what I'm talking about. If that happens, then you get this movement. You get up, come back down after 30, 40 points, and then you get it to continue up. So you can ride it up, cash out. When it comes back down, you can hop back in for the longer move. Right. Let's see if we make a new high here. You're looking at 50 points on a mini contract. One contract, $1,000. Mm-hmm. Yep, Milan, that's what I'm waiting for. Let's see if that's what happens. Um, even if not, if it just delivers, 50 points twice, right? That's enough. Let's see it take that out. See if we get a push to the upside, pushing through 18,914. All right, I want 907 first. All right, this first one, now 912, then we want 914. So here are equal highs at 909. Same high for both of those candles. And go, let's get 912 and then 14. I do not J-stock. Now it could, but I do not. It's already done that. Right. So we took the entry I took was over here at 1007 and it ran up. And then it dropped back down at 1022. And now it's currently in its move now. If it drops down a third time, I've seen it work a third time. But every time it drops back down, you run the risk of it failing. So I'm not expecting it to drop back down. And if it does, I wouldn't be looking for an entry. But that's not saying you shouldn't look for an entry. I'm just, for me, I wouldn't. Um, Especially right now, we have the indices are not in sync. So we're still selling on the Dow big time. But since the start of the hour, which is where this breaker started, you can see we've been quite bullish on NQ. So as long as the indices are not in sync, then I wouldn't be looking for long moves. And so a retracement back down could mean that now price wants to go the other direction. So yeah, you would have wanted to get in at least on the second one here. Otherwise, Yeah, you may want to wait for a new setup. Now, really what I'm hoping is that we will eclipse this high, and then that will validate a breaker here. And so then maybe we'll get a retracement back to this high and then even higher. So that's what I would be looking for, not necessarily back down here. All right, almost 912. All right, 912's been taken. Let's see if it'll deliver that 50 points. I think it did deliver the 50. I have it set up for 50 and a half. But there it is. So there it is. All right, so back-to-back 50-point expansions from the breaker. Okay, I'll trade it back too. So this is all looking good. This is about a 1-to-1, it looks like for now. Actually, I'll just take it here. Right, so if you take an entry here, you run the risk of price trading into any fair value gap that's lower, which we have some down in here. So you want to wait until price trades as wherever it wants to go here and then comes back up and shows a willingness to revalidate this breaker. I didn't like how we didn't get an invalidation of the fair value gap. So let's see if it continues to hold. About 5 minutes, we'll have our next macro period. Yes, Queen. Yes, I have two of the Apex accounts. And actually, we have about 3 minutes before the macro start. Let me just run and refill my coffee quickly. I'll be back before the macro. Hey, to see while I was gone, this fair value gap didn't hold, so we'll get rid of that. We're now back at our original breaker. So we'll see if that holds up a third time. All right, so now the question is, did it come down here just to get these relative equal lows, or did it come down because it's more bearish now? Now on the hourly, we did have a push below a protected low and a close below. So we are experiencing bearish price structure. But that could just also be if you take a fib on the entire range, we're just now down into discount. We get a break below these lows and a closure that will invalidate what we have as a breaker here. Oh yeah. We have that queen, and we also have, there's a few other levels down here. So we have the regular trading hour gap, which is at the lower extremity, a lower limit of the fair value gap here, which at the same time is also the new day opening gap. So let me put that back up here so you can see it. So here in yellow is new day opening gap. So we have all of that in play. The previous low that happened at 9:57 of 18,838 was consequent encroachment of the new day opening gap. All right, we'll drop this breaker now. So it was good while it lasted. All right, J stock, there you have it. So remember I said I wouldn't take the breaker the third time. Um, Sometimes it does work, but then also you get these happen sometimes where it does not work. So it's best to catch an opportunity when you first see it, for the highest probability, and then afterwards, just gauge how much risk you're willing to take and go from there. But most likely, it's probably best to look for another setup. Just a couple minutes when we get a closure here. We're going to have a bearish fair value gap starting right at 9:15, where these highs are, these equal highs from the previous breaker. We're going to have a bearish fair value gap there. So next time we push up to these highs, even though we have equal highs, it's going to be a downwards pressure from there. Okay, so now we've traded through the new day opening gap. I'm going to take it off the screen just to clean it up a bit, but it still may use the new day opening gap later in today as some other levels of confluence. This one said that we were going to close in a regular trading hour gap. Oh, is it? Let's see. 793. Oh, 678 from yesterday. I see. I see what you're saying a lot. This is true. We didn't. And that low that was like the 2 o'clock low. And also that was the opening bell low from Tuesday. So those two levels are right down at 678 and 684. So about 5 handles apart. Right. It's also at the lower end of a bullish fair value gap. So it could go down, sweep those levels, retrace back into the fair value gap and keep it relevant and then push back to the upside. That's if we get that far down. That's another 150 points from where we are now. Similar setup to what we had last time, again on the 15-second. Actually, the 30-second looks a little nicer, a little cleaner. Starting to get back in sync here. head first. Just a closure above right here by a couple ticks. I missed that. And then it traded back inside and out. But I was waiting for a retracement back down to the lower one. So that was an entry that I missed. Now, if it trades back down, then it's one that you can catch. However, that was the risk you take when you want the more conservative entry as opposed to the aggressive one. Sometimes you miss your entry and you just have to be okay with price moving away from you. As you can see, it already moved past the price point that I would have, actually take that back, I would have wanted 25. All right, so it's moved past the price point that I would have wanted to get out anyway. I just wasn't able to catch inside, so it happens. All right, once again, during the macro period, we see that we had a confirmation of a breaker, then a confirmation of a second one. And if you're aggressive enough to take a market entry or had a eagle eye and was able to see that it just closed above and then traded back in, and this was the breaker you wanted, it could have delivered quite a bit for you within this 20-minute period. James, I will occasionally I will, but I prefer for the entry to take place during the macro. So whether it's confirmed before or during, I prefer the entry to take place during. But I have taken on occasion have taken entries outside of the macro period, and they work out as well. It's just for me not as high probability as when it happens during the macro. So here we have the draw on liquidity. Remember that bearish fair value gap I told you was going to pop up at 11 o'clock once the hour closed. It was going to pop up right at the high of the last macro and where it delivered. Remember, we had these two equal highs, and now we have this bearish one. So if I was in a long and I was looking for price to push higher, and this would be my liquidity target, I would be looking for price to turn around and push lower up in this area. So I'd be looking to either partial out or close my trade. Let's go and let's look and see where the consequent encroachment, just in case we do get up to this fair value gap, just so we know exactly where the median point is. Miss Goody, glad you're having a good day. Okay, so we just hit premium pricing. Okay, so we hit premium pricing. Now to retrace a bit, possibly down here, possibly. We have consequent encroachment of this breaker sitting right on the upper limit of the fair value gap. It could be a good place to turn around if we see lower prices. Again, if we see higher prices here, first pay attention in this orange area. Then next, we have the lower limit of the fair value gap at 915. And then after that, we have consequent encroachment of fair value gap at 951. Okay. Nine 16. Okay. 1039 and 1045. Let's see. I would say Queen. I would say both actually. I like this one here, partially because it's struggling so hard to close above. So it's definitely using this level. It looked good on the lower time frame on 30-second. It doesn't look as good here on the 1 minute. If I was just looking at the 1 minute, then I probably would take the 1040 candle. But since I did look at the lower time frame, I'm willing to use both. And since I like a 25-point TP, that would be me taking this breaker up to this one. And then once we get in here, we'll see exactly how price wants to play into this bearish fair value gap, whether it's strong or whether it was just part of the movement down this morning from news. And then we're going to invalidate that pretty quickly. So we'll see how price wants to trade once it gets to 915. But I'd be willing to use it. Since price won't close above now, I'm still wondering if it wants to come back down and retest here, because it did test it on the 30-second, but any of the other time frames, it doesn't look like it ever came back to retest. So if we were looking at this purely as like a market maker buy model, then yeah, I would like to see it come back here once, trade up here, use that to springboard for its final leg somewhere up in here, anywhere from constant encroachment down to the lower limit. So just anywhere in here. I wonder, since we haven't broken to the downside just yet, if we are not going to. We might sweep a low here, but still stay in this general area before pushing higher. Okay, you usually trust it. Okay. All right, so that would mean, so you'd be looking for a long from here then, essentially. There's 25 points right there. So you long from here. Yeah, we still haven't gotten a closure above, so we do still await that as the confirmation that we are going. But I think I feel pretty good. It's not going lower. All right, there's the closer above. Nope, not yet. 30 more seconds. In fact, since we drew that on the 30-second, let's look and see if we got a closure above on the 30-second. This high, 993 flat. The closure of this candle, I can't see. 993 flat. Okay, so it closed exactly on, not above. Let's hope that doesn't come back to bite me for getting in early. Well, I didn't take a position, but I did advise. I trusted it. All right, finally a close. There we go. Yeah, Queen, I got it to confirm on the 30-second, but the 1 minute so far is not willing to confirm it just yet. Even though we got this sort of trend line wicks up here. All right, there it is, finally. Get rid of this. Yeah, you're right. No displacement. There's no, so this is not a unicorn setup. It's just a breaker setup. But those up wicks, yeah, I don't like those. Not in sync again. We have Dow selling for the hour. S&P and Nasdaq are near highs for the hour. They have really strong bullish candles, but we are not in sync with the other indices. Well, all three indices, I mean, are not in sync, and the dollar is pushing higher. Let's see. Yep, dollar has its highest value since last Wednesday, so over a week. Still no displacement. So it does make this a little lower probability. But I've still seen these things work out. They just drive you crazy as you see the price moving so slow. Yeah, you're correct, Melodic. This could have been the buy stops it was looking for, but I'm still leaning towards it trading up to the fair value gap. We'll see. Hmm. Yeah, Dolfo, I was looking. I really wanted it to retrace to here. I really wanted this level. But what that may mean is that once we get up here, we really are going lower. So this level will get balanced out just on the way down. So there's likely not to be a sustained move upwards. But we could still get the 25 points that I was looking at achieving just before 9:15. Okay, so it did hit this level. I wanted to see how it would react there. All right, Robin, good job. 7 accounts, $400. All right. All right, everyone, I'm just going to run, grab another cup of coffee. I'll be right back. We got about 30 minutes left in the session this morning. All right, I'm back, and there's another 25 pointer from the breaker. Right on time. Appreciate that, Milad, helping out with the confirmation there. Yeah. So, James, I know you asked earlier if taking a breaker outside of the macro was a good idea, or do I take those trades? And I didn't take this one here, but you can see what happens. Like it'll still deliver what you're looking for, but sometimes, like in now this case, it was a little slow in delivering. If you catch it in the macro, it has specific instructions it's trying to accomplish during a specific time period, and so it usually moves a little bit easier. And so, so it's not as much agony as we had looking at this one, which let's see, when did the confirmation happen? Confirmation happened right here at 11:25. So it was only 13 minutes, but the confirmation was really the issue. It took so long. It traded in here from 11:10 to 11:25, just waiting to trade above and close, and it did it without any impulse. So this was a situation where this is a breaker setup, but not a unicorn, because we do not have a fair value gap anywhere in here. I'll remove this as well, since we just clipped that high. This was not a hindrance to price, which is good. Up above, we do have consequent encroachment, so we'll see if it wants to trade to that level, or if it wants to start to trade lower. So this would be a situation where now that we're approaching a bearish fair value gap, we're going to look for a bearish breaker to now send price lower. If we don't get it, then price just continues higher, and we sit on the sideline after. If we were in that trade, we would have exited here, and we would have just been waiting for something. Just curious, did anyone take this breaker bullish setup? Well, I did. Okay, excellent. Lisa, excellent. Good job. Way to hold. I know it wasn't the easiest trade to hold, and progress was pretty slow with each candle. But as you can see, it was respecting lows. So every time it made a retracement and created a low, that low didn't get violated. So we had there. Then we had this one. Okay. My mouse froze. There we go. All right. And we had this one, which was one that tapped right back into the breaker. So you could have taken this entry 1133. Let's see what else. Yeah, that's the only one. Here, 25 and a quarter right there. So that would have been the trade. That would have been the entry. All right, so Layla, good job. Way to go. Yeah, Ray, I'm sure you would have ate good today. You would have ate that up, that both down and back up. You're right. 935. I think that's a swing high. Yeah, right here. It's a good point. That could be next. And then obviously the swing high after that also coincides with consequent encroachment. So those would be the next two levels. Thanks for that. Okay, you guys are up on the 5 minute. Let me catch up. So we got the macro coming in about 7 minutes, but let's look at this 5 minute first. Okay, I like it. 5 minutes looks pretty clean, right? Before the move down, which swept the low from 955, heading into 10 o'clock, also driving into the bullish fair value gap. So we'll take this candle to this candle. And we'll make that a breaker. All right. And we had a confirmation trade above. And then we had a macro coming up. So we'll see what that brings us. And on top of that, we have impulse. Still favoring a retracement, a deeper retracement. So I'm going to continue to watch market and see if that happens. Oh, so Layla, it's your first trade. Oh, congratulations. Yes, it does. I hope I can get your subscription here. I'll extend that out to everyone. And if, if you're new here, definitely make sure that you're subscribing so that you are sent invitations for every time that we go live. Also, if there's any break in our normal schedule, you'll know when we resume live. I was out last week on vacation. I have another one coming up in about 7 or 8 more weeks. So there will be times where we won't live stream every day. And so if you're subscribed, you'll know exactly when we come back, because they also send out reminders 30 minutes before we go. So so make sure you're subscribed. And again, if you're liking the live stream so far this morning, either you got a win, you gained some knowledge, or you were just able to find a place to trade that you enjoy, hit the like button. All right, sorry, we're in the macro now. Let's drop. Let's get back down to the 1 minute. Let's see if we run for the swing high that was at around 9:45. Just when we received the news event, if I'm not mistaken, there was a 9:45. Yep, flash, manufacturing, and services PMI. So the high that was created right as that news was being announced. So let's see if we take that high next. That's at 834 and a half. Sorry, 934 and a half. first took the equal highs that were made. So those highs been taken at 923. Now it's pushing higher. Again, we're looking at 934.5. It's still inching closer. We got about 7 handles left. All right, so we're still, as we close out this hour, we're still heavily bullish for this hour on S&P as well as Nasdaq. It's closing in on the range that was the 9 o'clock range this morning. And we have begun to be bullish on Dow as well. So we are in sync as we close out this hour, and the candle for the hour is also bearish on the dollar. So that's also good to see after the dollar swept highs. So the dollar went and swept highs from these. Oh, it swept yesterday's high, which then got it back up to last Wednesday's levels early in like the London session. And since it swept that high, it's now pushing lower. So it's good to see that we're now in sync as we head into the lunch hour. And we'll see what the afternoon brings us after we break for a bit. We still got another 90 seconds, and we'll see what we get. Maybe we won't reach that 934 level. But before we concede on that, let's see how price reacts right here. Yep, not only is that the breaker, but this is also the last down candle before price was sent up, clearing these highs and this high. Swept those lows. If we get a closure below, then I would not believe that we'd be going any higher at the present moment. Not that we won't in 30 minutes or an hour or whenever, but at the current moment, I would think that we'd be going a little bit lower if we close below these lows. All right, it was a good rebound there. See if it can grab some momentum and run a little bit. Remember, there's still 10 more minutes in the macro, so it could still push up to 934 within the next 10 minutes. So otherwise, I'll leave it to you guys to watch this. How close did we get? 933 and a half. So we got within 1 point. Let's see if this candle will give it to us. Eddie, so we're in, I know you say we just tapped into 15, but this pink area here is the 1 hour. So we're in a larger time frame. So what I look for once we trade into it, if I'm in a long, I'm already looking to partial out, if not in my trade. But also I'm looking for a bearish breaker to form in here. All right, so now if we get a trade below and it closes below here, now we have a bearish breaker, trade back in and then down. So just because we hit a bearish fair value gap, it doesn't mean that price is going to stop there, but I am looking to see if price wants to stop there. That's how I build that in. But I'm not sure if you were here the whole time, but when I'm looking for trades out of the breaker, I'm looking for 25 points. So my TP is very localized. I'm not looking for long 100-point runners or anything like that. But yeah, it looks like price is not willing to run up to 934.5 at this current moment. So every day we break it from 12 to 1. So I'm going to take the break now. I'll be back at 1300. Hope to see you all there. On your way out, make sure you like the video, subscribe if you're new, and or if you've been here before, you just haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. And I'll see you all at 1300. Have a good lunch. Take care. Oh, I just want to mention, this isn't usual where I give you so many setups. Like this morning, I showed you one trade. I walked you through what I was thinking, and then I gave you 2 additional setups. All of them worked out. So hopefully you guys were able to gain some value from that this morning. I didn't see a lot of questions in the chat, so not really sure, but I hope you guys gained some value. Talk to you in an hour. See you.